It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with financial advisors Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being with us. My name is Mike Bernard. I am your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners on the show. With me in the KFG studios, my business partners and fellow CFPs, Josh Gregory and Kevin Korhorn.
Yeah, drawing Social Security is one of the biggest financial decisions you're going to make in your entire lifetime. So don't make this financial decision in a vacuum. Instead, make sure that it fits within your entire financial life and your entire financial picture. So that and answers to your questions on today's episode of Wise Money.
And we've got a couple great questions, a couple from fans of the show we're going to be kicking off with about student loans and about permanent life insurance. So we'll hit that later in the program. If you have a question for us, we'd love to hear it. Reach out to us. You can find us online, wisemoneyradio.com. Submit a question right there on the right. You can call or text us, 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000. And then social media, wherever you're at, we're there too. Just search the Wise Money Show. That's Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You can submit questions that way. Follow us, like us, and catch all the content there as well. Okay, you guys remember the story of Oedipus?
Yes.
Don't tell us. I mean, it's Greek mythology, right?
Disturbing.
Very
mythology.
Disturbing.
That's right.
Where I'll keep it PG rated here. Guy hears his prophecy and accidentally fulfills it by running away. Yeah. So he hears some pretty gruesome stuff. He's like, no way. I'm taking control of this, and I am running away. And by that act of running away, he kicks off the domino effect to fall right into what this prophecy said. And why am I telling you this? Well, I actually think there's a connection between Oedipus and Social Security. So many of us are afraid of not getting what we're due with Social Security. We're afraid that I've paid in all these years and I'm supposed to get something, and it should be this big benefit. And in order to kind of get mine, we make some bad decisions with Social Security. And just like Oedipus, kind of fall right into the trap that we were trying to avoid, which is not getting all of what we were really due. So
that's a good analogy.
I'm gonna take that analogy a little step further and talk about what these three myths. You see what I did there, mythology, and these three myths that wind up being traps for people when it comes to Social Security. And the very first one is that you should draw your Social Security as early as you can.
Yeah, I'm glad you're starting with that one, because this is one that really is perpetuated by most retirees' peer group. Right? I mean, it's just sort of become almost conventional wisdom that you should just get started as early as you can. In fact, the earliest age that Social Security lets you draw, unless you're a widow or widower, is age 62. And that is the most common age that people begin drawing, right? Mm-hmm. More people draw at that age than any other age, which I would argue this is maybe an example of a time when the wisdom of crowds may be failing us, right? It doesn't mean just because more people draw at that age that that's really the best thing to do. And in fact, I think it's maybe an indication that too many people are listening to what their friends or family members have done or are thinking about doing rather than basing the decision on their own financial plan.
Yeah, I think it's yet another example of how the financial education system in this country has failed us. Now, if you're hearing that and you're nodding your head, I want you to repeat after me, I am not a victim. So you do not have to be a victim to that. But it is interesting. I've spent all day, every day for the last 25 years thinking about these matters, and a lot of folks haven't. So when you meet folks and you say, hey, so when are you thinking about retiring or whatever? Well, I have to retire at 62. Well, why is that? Well, that's when I can take Social Security. Okay, well, that's cool. Have you considered a different age or doing it any other? No, that's just what I do. And again, and it'd be easy to think that, and I'm not cracking on someone who might be thinking that right now. I'm saying try to get outside of that box and think, what else? Is there a different approach other than the approach that I've been thinking? And should I consider that? Because if this is truly one of the biggest financial decisions that I make in my lifetime, do I want to do it based on what the guy next to me at work is doing or has done? Or do I want to do it based on what's absolutely best for myself, for my spouse, for my children, for my grandchildren? I mean, this has a far-reaching implications.
I think there's a myth embedded in here. If you're a regular listener to the Wise Money Show, we talked about this just a couple months ago about some other financial professionals spinning this very issue that you should draw as early as you can. And the point here with the myth is there isn't a cookie-cutter approach. There's no best way for each person. I think going back to what you said, Kevin, I think for many people, they just blindly think. I've had people say, when I've asked, okay, so what's the big retirement goal? Well, I think my retirement's 67. Well, you kind of have a choice. Well, my Social Security is 67. No, you get a choice in that. So some more intentionality to it, and actually a planful approach to look at, all right, when is the best time for you to draw your Social Security? And it might be different for your spouse than it is for you.
Yeah.
Yep. You're exactly right. And to me, I would want you making that not only a planful approach, but truly calculating what is the cost of starting early. You know, every year that you go a little bit earlier, there's shaving off or reducing your benefit, and that reduction lasts for the rest of your life. And there are some circumstances where you could maybe get your benefit growing a little bit more. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. But if you started early, just know that you've made a sacrifice, and it may be worth it. It may fit just fine in your financial plan, but unless you've run a projection that looks out into the future and considers the various scenarios, like what if you pass away later than you expected? What if your spouse passes away sooner? These are all things that have an impact on whether or not drawing early was the right thing or not.
You know, we talk all the time, and we've seen all the stats about the average American doesn't have as much saved up for retirement as they'd like to. Do you think that's part of the equation here? People are drawing Social Security as soon as they possibly can because there aren't other resources to draw from when they let go of their paycheck?
Yeah, I mean, how many people, the day that their paycheck ends, they walk away from that paycheck either by their choice or it was forced upon them. If they don't have resources to fall back on immediately, Social Security is an easy faucet to turn on pretty quickly and at least get some kind of income coming in, even if it is a reduced amount. Some would say, hey, it's better than nothing, and nothing is what I would have if I don't start Social Security right away. So not everyone can delay Social Security if retirement comes early. Right. And my hope would be that you exert whatever amount of influence you have on your retirement date and push it back a little bit further. If you don't have the resources built up where you could live on something other than Social Security, then that may be a sign that retirement may be coming too early for you.
Yeah.
And you may need to try to delay as best you can.
Yeah, I'm excited. We don't have time to unpack this right now, but at the beginning of the next segment, we're going to talk about the reasons why you would want to draw right at 62.
Well, go ahead. Get started.
Okay. One of the reasons why I might want to draw at 62, if I am done working, I may want to, especially if I'm a grandparent and I have a dependent child who's under the age of 19, my dependent child gets half my benefit. So the calculation, therefore, is not a simple calculation. Because if I've adopted my 10-year-old grandson, I've got the next 9 years where my grandson's going to get half my benefit. Therefore, that might make some sense. I love the folks that have a great plan that say, hey, listen, I want to be done working in my 9-to-5 job, but I do want to work and make some money. And I want Social Security to be the supplement, and that will supplement me, and I plan to work till I'm...
That's actually a great segue. We've got a couple more myths that we need to be talking about, and But plus other reasons why you might want to draw Social Security early, reasons why you might want to delay. We've got that and more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. All right. Thanks for watching YouTube. Just a reminder, if you're new to the channel, hey, thanks for being here. I would encourage you to subscribe to this channel and hit the notifications button. We post a new show every single week, and then additional videos as well. We're actually in a brainstorming session for the past couple days about different business things, and the second one yesterday was just all about these different educational videos that we'll be coming out with soon. So I'd encourage you, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so that you're notified of everything. And then, whether you like this episode or others, hit the thumbs up, hit the thumbs down if you don't, and leave a comment as well. We'll get back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say smash the like button. Just hit it.
Yeah, pound it. Okay, I'll take it from you, so you don't worry about the time.
Okay.
Be aware of the time. Don't worry about the time.
Because the other thing is health. If at 62,
Right.
I'm a short
diagnosis
I'm a
or
short
something.
timer, then it might make sense to hop on the gravy train.
So we're not fear mongers. It's just real life throws you curveballs. There's an elected official in our area. We are in the greater South Bend area. Just think Notre Dame, and there's an elected official who's been in public service for the past 3 terms, and we found out yesterday, my wife works with his wife, that he's got cancer, and pretty far along, apparently, just by the initial readings. So they're sending him to Chicago and meet. So you just never know. And it's pancreatic cancer, and they're fearing that it's spread. And so you never know what could happen. And financially, are you prepared if you get some really bleak news like that? And you might be thinking, well, I don't really care about finances. In the moment of shock, you won't. But as you start thinking about how that will change things, the implications, you'll think about the finances and you'll wonder, are you ready? And then when it comes to Social Security, if you get a diagnosis like that, in your early 60s, that should influence your Social Security decision.
Absolutely. Yep.
And the case that you're making, Mike, is to have your relationship with a financial planner in place so that you don't have to scramble when you get that diagnosis to go shopping and find one.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's dive.
So are we
back
gonna
in.
so we're gonna hit that one on the
Yeah, let's hit that
Okay.
on the show. Is there another one or two that you'd want to mention? Because I say otherwise. Let's just hit it real quick and then move on to the second myth
I
to
think
try and keep it tight.
let's keep it tight.
Okay. All right, so we'll hit that one and then we'll go into myth number 2.
Unless I come up with another.
There is another one, though.
Then let's.
Disabled son or daughter, if the disability started before age 22, they don't have to be under age 18, and you could still be.
Okay, you gotta say
drawing
that.
as
You
well.
gotta say that one.
Say that as well. All right. What in the world does Oedipus have to do with you drawing your Social Security? Well, we're talking about that today. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being with us. My name's Mike Bernard. Here with me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. I want to say thanks to the attorneys at South Bank Legal, as well as First State Bank, for making the Wise Money Show possible. Thank you very much. To catch all the Wise Money content, you can find us online, wisemoneyradio.com. And then wherever you're at on social media, we're there too. Just search the Wise Money Show. You can catch all the content that way as well. We're talking today about the 3 big myths when it comes to Social Security. And the first one is, well, you might draw it as soon as you possibly can, as soon as you retire. And that's one myth, that's just always the best thing to do. And it might be, but it might not be. What are some other reasons, real quick, why you might want to draw early, right when you retire?
Yeah, if you had a health diagnosis that said your life expectancy has been dramatically reduced, then you would want to do that. The only way you're going to know for sure whether you made the right decision as of when to retire is at your death. So then you can go back and do the math. I think the reality is on your deathbed, you're not going to really give a rip whether you drew too early or too late. That probably won't matter at the time. But part one of the components of the decision-making process as to when do I draw Social Security is what is my health and what is my life expectancy. Because if I'm not going to be a long liver, depending on a number of other factors, it might make sense to draw at 62.
Yeah, that's right. And, in the last segment, Kevin mentioned a scenario where maybe you have a grandchild that you've adopted. So you're drawing Social Security, but you have a dependent child under the age of 18, and you could be drawing Social Security for them as well in that circumstance. A similar circumstance, it's not that uncommon in maybe a second marriage situation where a parent has a child of their own, not a grandchild, a child under age 18, or a disabled child who could be older as long as the disability began before age 22. So there's all these interesting little circumstances, but the basic math is normally the reason we say don't draw too early is because you're making such a massive sacrifice in what your lifelong benefits will be. However, these are a few examples of circumstances where by drawing early, you're actually tapping into benefits for other family members, which offset what you're giving up by drawing early. And sometimes that math works out to your advantage where actually delaying may not result in the best family benefits overall. And it's one of the reasons why you just have to look at this from so many different angles to get the answer right.
Yeah. All right. Social Security myth number 2 is that I can work and still draw my Social Security. Well, actually, that's not a myth. That's 100% true, but there's a catch.
Yeah, the catch is if I'm working before my full retirement age, there is an amount of money that I can make, and above that amount, my Social Security does get reduced.
Even full retirement age, though, if you weren't thinking about this all day, every day for the past 2 decades, even that I would say, well, okay, well, I'm fully retired. I'm not going to. So even that just doesn't really make any sense. It's an age that the Social Security Administration has assigned for you. It's based on when you were born, and it started at age 65, and it's been trending upwards. So depending on when you were born, it might be 66, might be 66 and change. For many of you, it's probably 67 by now. And for my kids, it'll probably be 75. They'll keep pushing it back.
Yeah, if you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67.
Yep. So, and all that means is you can still retire and begin drawing Social Security before that age. You can even keep on working. So think semi-retirement. You've walked away from a full-time job, now you're working part-time. But the catch that we're referring to is if your wages, if your earned income, paycheck-type money, goes over $17,640 this year, 2019, then you're going to have a penalty against your Social Security benefits. For every dollar that you earn, they're going to hold back 50 cents worth of Social Security in that scenario.
And the big trap here is the people, if you're thinking, hey, part of my retirement plan is come age 62, I'm going to go to part-time and I'll make $40,000. And I looked, my Social Security will equal about 20. I can live on that. That's cool. No, if you're making $40,000 part-time and you try to draw your Social Security, they're going to penalize your Social Security. Your Social Security will be reduced potentially all the way.
Right.
Yep.
And people, so here's the good and the bad news. The good news is I can, if I turn on Social Security, this is one of the tricks, because as people are retiring, I say, well, what are the odds that you will go back to work? And they might be at 62 or 63 a little burnt, and they might not be leaving under the best situation. And they're like, I'm never going back to work. And then, you get retired, you organize your sock drawer and your tie hanger and your tie rack is all organized, and then you're like, okay, well, what do I do next? And then you say, I kind of liked work. There's some good things that come out of working, so I'm going to go back to work. It used to be, when we started, that you could draw Social Security for years, pay it all back, and reset at a higher amount.
Basically a do-over, right? At any time.
Yep. And actually you can search on the internet and find articles that tell you can do that. And when those articles were published, that actually was good information. The problem with the internet is nothing ever leaves. So don't put pictures of yourself on the internet, but also don't read old articles about Social Security, because you can still do that as long as you haven't gone beyond 12 months.
That's exactly right.
So if I start drawing today and 9 months from now, Josh says, no, come on back, we really need you. And I say, okay, I'm coming back. I can pay back every penny that I've earned, and it's as if I had never drawn, and that will allow me to draw at a future date and have a bigger number.
Sounds complicated, sounds crazy. We've helped people do it. I'm thinking of one we helped do it last year, 2018.
Well, and you can only do that if you have liquid resources at your disposal to be able to pay it back with, right? Or the ability to go get a loan or something like that. But yeah, that could be a large sum of money that all of a sudden you're trying to send back, but it could be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, and you know what? The person that I'm talking to right now is, so I'm going to be 67 in 2035. And if I just read an article this week about how Social Security goes insolvent in 2035. So I'm looking at this and saying, okay, this is not a Republican issue. It's not a Democrat issue. This is a math problem. So this math problem is not going to work. The average recipient right now is drawing $17,000 of Social Security per year. We are getting set up to have an incredible war of the ages, because the number of people paying into the system versus the number of people getting money out of the system, those numbers are going to change dramatically. And as they do, I have a sense that the younger folks are going to say, no way, not doing it. And so they're going to have to do something with the folks like me that are turning full retirement age 2035, when the system basically goes broke. Because all of the extra money, all of the extra taxes that were paid into the system were not put in a lockbox. That money was all borrowed out and spent by our government.
So do they change it or do they close it down?
The solution here is maybe not as huge as everyone would imagine it to be, because when you hear insolvent in the year 2035, that's what drives people to hurry up and go claim Social Security at the earliest possible date.
Oedipus.
Because they think they're only going to draw from 62 until whenever that 2035 year hits, and then it's all just dries up. But the reality is that at that time, the projections show that even about 80% of your benefits could still be paid with the taxes rolling in.
But still, though, there's some easy fixes, and it's a fix, so it's a change, and people won't like it. But the longer our Congress delays making a decision, the fewer the choices will be. And right now, we still have enough choices. So anyway, all right. So we've got another myth to tackle with Social Security, and then a couple great questions. One about what to do with student loans and investing. That and more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Okay, so real quick.
That's a good point, Josh. I don't want to be a fearmonger. And you're right, insolvent is I can't pay
100%.
100% of my promises. But I mean, it is only, and the solutions today, if the choices were made today, it'd be relatively painless.
I mean, for some.
And the longer we wait,
the more pain.
The more painful it's going to be.
Because what is it? They can raise the Social Security wage limit, right? I mean, the past couple of years,
tax you on more than the first 132 and change,
which is a huge increase from even a couple years ago. They can roll back the full retirement age again. They could adjust the cost of living adjustment increase. There was one other that said, doing this alone would push the Social Security solvency date out several decades, and I can't remember what it was, but I remember looking at it like, that's it? That's it? Someone proposed this thing.
Yeah.
Just pass it.
You know, and I don't know what one you're thinking of,
I can't
but
remember.
But right now, and we're going to get to this in the next segment when we talk about the taxation of Social Security benefits. You know, when they first came out, you could receive your Social Security and no one paid tax at all. Now it's crept up to the point where up to 85% of your Social Security can be counted on your tax return. Why 85%? You know, it's such an abstract number. Why not go all the way to 100%?
Yeah.
And these are nickel and dime type items. It adds a little bit more to the tax base and everything, but that's the kind of solution or mix of solutions that I think it's going to take.
So it's not pain-free. There's some, I mean, it would be a fix, but it's, I mean, compared to, well, I mean, this is the thing people are fearful of. Those fixes are better than drawing a line in the sand and saying, you have, you don't. Whether that's a line in the sand based on when you were born or whether that's a line in the sand based on your assets, that's the big concern people have. Well, if I save money, because this is the thing, this is extra bonus content, and then we got to jump into the next segment. We probably need to talk about this if you guys think I could be on something. It feels like the old American dream was I can work hard and achieve some financial success. And today, the dream is I'm going to try to get something for not doing anything. And that probably needs to be polished, but I'm just seeing it more and more that it used to be I can work and get something. Like if I do a lot, and I know there's a lot of things that could go wrong, but you know what? If I stay clear of those and if I work hard and do the right thing, I can make something here. And it's shifted to, well, I can get something for nothing?
Yeah, if you were going to polish that a little bit, the American dream really is that the next generation has it better than the previous generation. And part of that was based on, to your point, Mike, this fierce independence that I am responsible. I am responsible for my own financial well-being. And that has shifted, it appears, and there are many people today thinking my financial well-being will be tied to what kind of resources I can get from somewhere else or someone else.
Yeah.
Because this whole idea of tax the rich, well, that's fine. It's just that's not going to make your life any better.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a stinky life and Bill Gates pays twice the taxes that he's paying right now, your life's not going to get any better.
Yeah. All right, well, let's dive in. We've got to start getting into the question, this segment. For those that are listening that Social Security is a long way off, or maybe they said, just watch that episode. Come on.
Yep.
So we'll hit the taxation, and then we'll get into questions.
To this segment.
In this segment, that's right. Ready? If you have student loans and you have cash flow, should you invest that cash flow because of the long-term rate that you can get in the market, or do you pay off that debt? Great question from Jamie. We've got that coming up. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being with us. My name is Mike Bernard. Here with me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Thank you to Bethel University Adult and Graduate Studies, as well as Diane Bennett and her Inspired Homes team for making the Wise Money Show possible. Thank you very much. Listen, if you're not watching the Wise Money Show on the YouTube channel, I'd encourage you to do so. Every episode of the program is on the YouTube channel, as well as lots of other videos as well to help you make wise financial decisions. Just go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it, hit that notification thumbs up, and comment as well. Thank you. All right, we are just about to wrap this up. The three main myths with Social Security. The first is that it's always best to draw as early as you can. That's myth number one. Myth number two is that I can keep working and draw Social Security. That's not a myth. That's true, but there's a catch. There are limits there if you're drawing Social Security and working before your full retirement age. The third myth really gets me worked up, but I'm going to try to calm down, is that, well, Social Security is not taxed.
Well, this is another myth that is founded in reality. Originally, Social Security came out, it was delivered to retirees, and they didn't pay tax on it. There's even people.
Golly, Josh, you're already making me mad.
There's even people today who don't pay tax on any of their Social Security. There's some who don't even have to count it on their tax return because this is all based, it's a form of means testing in a way, right? It's a sliding scale. Some people will pay taxes on their Social Security and others won't. And it's all based on this calculation where we take half of your Social Security and add it to all your other sources of income and measure you against certain thresholds. As you start creeping higher and higher along those thresholds, eventually they start pulling some of your Social Security onto the tax return where it gets included in your taxable income.
And it's not really that big of a number that you need to have of other income for them to start pulling your Social Security over. So huge tax planning opportunity here. You thought while you were working there were a lot of tax planning considerations that you need to factor in. Oh, my goodness, when you retire and you're forced to draw money out of your IRA at 70.5, or you've got Roth IRAs or capital gains or other things, my goodness, the tax planning opportunities just go up immensely. So you need to be doing financial planning in retirement, and you also need to be thinking, all right, are mom and dad paying any tax on their Social Security? And what's their financial life like? You might say, well, they're just simple, going to Walmart, that's a big week for them. No, you got to look at their financial situation, talk to your certified financial planner who's doing comprehensive financial planning, and make sure that they're capturing all the tax opportunities.
Yeah, because you say, hey, I know mom and dad are taking the required minimum distributions from their IRA, so everything's fine. You know what? They might need to be taking more than the required minimum distributions. It's not uncommon to run into someone who's paying no taxes, but not only are they paying no taxes, they've got like minus $7,000. So they could actually have $7,000 more of taxable income. So take $7,000 more out of that IRA and still pay no taxes.
But you've just got to be aware when you do that, does it start pulling more of your Social Security over? And if you're in a situation where you're perpetually thinking you're going to need to pay tax on your Social Security, think again. Maybe there's some creative tax planning you can do where you can sacrifice 2 years and say, you know what, we're going to do Roth conversions, or we're going to do something, and yep, we're going to pay tax on all of our Social Security. But by capturing it and consolidating it into this year or these couple of years, well, out there in the future, then none of our Social Security will be included on our tax return. And the other thing that just drives me crazy, that they said they'd never tax it, and they now do, but you've already paid tax on this money. FICA is not a deduction. And so you've already paid tax on this money. It just drives me crazy that it's already, and you could say, well, there's some gain there. You've got to pay tax on gain. We can't see that gain. Just drives me crazy. I told you I was going to
Well, Mike,
stay
that's
calm.
Yeah, that's the same. That's how Oedipus felt.
I bet he did.
So be careful where you're heading. So people don't really understand this, and and I just had a retiree who's turning 66, and she's getting ready to draw her Social Security, and we talked about the taxation of Social Security, and she said, "What? You doing what?" So the change in the tax rate, that's from 1993, the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act. A deadlocked Senate, the vote was tied 50-50, and Vice President, who just had recently invented the internet, Vice President Al Gore cast the deciding vote in favor of the passage, and President Clinton signed the bill, the largest tax increase in history, into law August 10th, 1993. So even though it feels new to you because it's new, it might be new information, this has been going on for a while. And this is one of the ways that, in essence, they've means tested it.
Yeah.
So, and they're going to means test it, I believe, even further.
That's just mean.
Based on your income, based on your assets. And another way to means test it is just say, hey, if your income is above a certain amount, we're just going to withhold Social Security.
All right, so what's the point here? What's the next step? The point is not to, well, then I shouldn't save up because I might have to pay tax on my Social Security, or they might means test my Social Security, so I shouldn't save up. The point is really to be working with a certified financial planner to see for what is the best way in your specific situation, fitting within your tax plan, with your cash flow plan, with your retirement plan, with your investment plan, Your estate plan, my goodness, because of survivorship benefits.
Yep.
What's the best way for you and your spouse to draw Social Security? That is the main point. Work with your certified financial planner. Make sure they're doing comprehensive financial planning. Okay, each of those areas that I just talked about should not be a surprise to them. They should tell you why this is the best way to draw Social Security for each of those areas of your financial life. All right, great question here from Jamie. She's 32 from Washington, D.C. A little full and fair disclosure here. This question was actually found by Lindsay, our marketing and producer for the Wise Money Show, on a financial forum, and this question was popped out there. She saw lots of other comments. She thought, okay, the guys need to talk about this on the show. So here's what Jamie asked. I have about $23,000 in student loans with a 4% interest rate. I have about the same amount sitting in my savings. And I just got a new job with a pay raise, aka cash flow. Everything I've read said that with an interest rate that low, I should invest my money instead of paying off my loans. Is that true?
You
No.
wanna take the first stab?
Yeah, I'm going to just say no, Jamie. It's a great question, but you want to the key thing here is liquidity. You do not want to make yourself completely illiquid because the moment that you go illiquid and you need money, you have now put yourself in a very vulnerable position. So the whole idea in playing the game is in order to win the game, I've got to create protections of various levels of protection for myself. And, on the farm, when we used to have a hay wagon and we were going to unhook it from the tractor, you'd put a chalk behind the wheel so that the wagon wouldn't roll backwards. And Jamie, I want you to think in your financial life, as you're rolling the ball up the hill, you want to continue putting a chalk behind the back tire of the hay wagon. And your cash reserves, that serves as kind of the mother of all chalks behind your financial wagon rolling all the way back down the hill and making you start over.
So there's a couple points she's making here, and the first one is, should I take my cash and pay off the loans, or should I take my cash and invest it? And Kevin, you're saying
no,
keep your cash.
I'm saying keep your cash. Now, if you have $23,000 of student loans and $23,000 of cash, there may be some cocktail there that you want to mix up where you say, hey, a portion of that goes towards reducing that. I don't know what else you have. If you have a home with some equity in it, that might be some sort of protection. But I would look at this and say, if you're going to invest and you've got extra cash flow, I would make sure that first investment is in my employer's retirement plan enough to capture the match. Mm-hmm. But that would be absorbing the extra cash flow.
Yeah, there's a few different layers here to this question, which is why I love it, and I appreciate Lindsay for throwing this out here for us to comment. So we've talked about, well, you don't want to bring your cash down to zero. You've got to look at your entire financial life, but you don't want to bring your cash down to zero. But what do you do with your cash flow, and what do you do with this loan? So we've got more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. This is why, and if you're a regular listener to the show, you might notice we talk about comprehensive financial planning and working with a CFP. This is why. This is exactly why, because you can't answer this without knowing what her goals are.
Right. I agree.
Well,
that's where
yes.
Well, there's a whole bunch of answers. They're just not good unless you really know what Jamie's trying to achieve and in every area of Jamie's financial life. Because does she need $23,000 sitting in cash? I don't know. As a 32-year-old, that might be a little high. That might be low.
living in Washington, D.C.
Right.
Is she single? Is she married?
Yeah.
Does she want to buy a house someday? Is she driving an 03?
Is $23,000 1 month's worth of expenses?
Right. We don't.
No, dude, I'm serious. Come on.
So, yeah.
That's exactly the right question, and I feel like we need to unpack this one a little bit more in the next segment.
So I think the important thing that that people need to hear are what are the principles?
Right.
What are the principles that would equip you to at least start thinking? Do you guys know what a chalk is?
Yeah.
You lost me at farm,
Okay.
by the way.
So it's spelled CHOCK, not CHALK.
F.
Yes.
Both my kids
Check.
took spelling
It's
tests
where
this
your
morning.
food comes from, Mike.
No.
Oh.
His food comes from Martin's.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. They make it in the back.
No, I think what would be most helpful is if we shared what are the principles? What are the guiding principles?
Oh my goodness! And the first one, and I'm going to say this here first. Well, I don't know if it'll come out in the segment, but because you're watching online, is be careful. Be very careful the advice that you get via information online.
Oh, yeah.
Because Lindsay found this and this question, and it has kind of exploded with a whole bunch of people saying this is what you need to do. And I don't know. We didn't create the Wise Money Show to say, oh, that's a great question. It depends. Call me Monday. We didn't do that. But you can't answer this question without looking at all areas of your financial life and what your actual goals are. You truly can't.
But that's why we can offer principles that seem to apply in this situation.
Right.
Right?
And one of the observations is Jamie's doing something well.
Yeah.
Because to have that amount of cash, that's a positive thing, right?
Yep. And getting a raise, and that's awesome. All right, let's dive in. The next question, I don't know if I want to sneak that in. So hopefully this one doesn't take 8 minutes or 9 minutes.
If we can get it done in 5.
5, that'd be great. And then
6,
we'll
7.
hit this second one.
The Leah?
Yeah. If we need to sneak one in, then I'll just grab one of these other ones. So, all right, ready? Should you take all of your cash reserves and pay off debt? That's a great question right now that we're answering. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being with us. My name is Mike Bernard. Here with me in the KFT studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. If you've missed anything, just want to remind you that every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast. So wherever you listen to podcasts, just search the Wise Money Show. You'll find us there. Subscribe to it so you get notified of every future episode. And then I'd encourage you to rate the show and even make a comment there. That we appreciate that. All right, so we just started answering a question from Jamie. She's 32 from Washington, D.C. She said, I have about $23,000 in student loans with a 4% interest rate. Have about the same amount in my savings, and I just got a new job with a pay raise. Everything I've read says that with an interest rate that low, I should invest my money instead of paying off my loans. Is that true? So far, we've said, careful to not take all of your savings and throw it all on debt or throw it all in investments. You need to have a buffer there, some emergency fund, and that's a principle.
Exactly. I mean, you need to attack your debt from a position of strength and stability because you don't know what kind of emergencies are going to come up as you're eliminating that debt. That's why we say get the emergency fund in place before you get too aggressive with the student loans or any other consumer debt that's out there. But there's also a budgeting principle here as well. We encourage people to not live on 100% of the income coming into their home. And you may say, well, that's kind of obvious, and yet it's not obvious if you're looking at most people's behavior. Many people take their lifestyle or their spending right up to the edge of what they're earning, and it doesn't leave margin. In a perfect world, we would encourage people to try to get all of their monthly and non-monthly expenses covered with about 85% of their take-home pay. Now, this is a conservative approach, but what it does is if you can keep your expenses that low, you're freeing up the remaining 15% for what we call goal achievement dollars. This is money that you can begin applying towards the most important priorities in your financial life. And paying off debt might be one of them. Building up resources for the future, saving for retirement, that kind of thing may be another one of them. finishing out an emergency fund, buying a house. There's so many different goals, but you have to have firepower when you go attack those goals. And the 15% is where that money comes from. And so now, if you have the margin in your financial life to direct extra dollars towards paying down the debt faster or saving it, now it does also become a question of your priorities. But also, Kevin mentioned in the last segment that if you have a retirement plan at work and there's an employer match on the table, you don't want to go any years without capturing all of those offered dollars to you, because that helps support your retirement and long-term planning as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think if you said to me, should I invest the money or pay off my student loans, in a vacuum, 99% of the time, it's pay off the loan. Pay off the loan, pay off the loan. Because if you invested the money in, with the stock market near its all-time highs, the stock market tends to move in trends. And so if the invested money stayed flat or went down over the next 5 years, how would you feel? And so emotionally, I'm not feeling very well. But the other thing is by getting rid of the loan sooner, I just freed up additional dollars to put towards goal achievement.
Exactly. That is not very sexy advice that Kevin just gave. In fact, it flies in the face of what you'll read online or books that are out there. I mean, there's an entire cottage industry that's been built up on how to be clever about using other people's money, right? Borrow money at a low rate and go invest it in some high-flying option that's going to really build wealth quickly. And the problem is you downplay the amount of risk there, and it's just not based on the right financial principles for building a strong future.
Yeah, that's a risky approach. Yeah. So if I could sort of codify what we've said, number one, this is a quintessential financial planning question. And Jamie, you're 32. I don't know if you've ever sat down with a certified financial planner, or if you've maybe just met with an insurance salesman or come across an investment advisor who, of course, would tell you you've got to invest this, right? No, you need to sit down with a certified financial planner and talk through all areas of your financial life and talk through what your goals are, prioritizing those goals, because that's what would lead to the great answer here. There's some good ones, but that's what would lead to the great answer. Based on what I'm hearing, figure out what your target is for how much you should have in your emergency fund. If that's $23,000, great. If it's $15,000, then take the extra money and apply it towards the highest priority goal. And then I'd encourage you, find a way to get the student loans paid off inside of 12 months and contribute the least amount necessary so that you can get the full company match. And then with extra cash flow, as long as there weren't any other goals intruding on this, I'd look at that Roth IRA. I don't know what you're making. I don't know what your tax bracket is. I just know you're 32. So I would consider juggling each of those things. Now, there's another financial person, I can't say professional, who has one of the, I think, this number 2 rated radio show right now, who might tell you something a little bit different than that. Just do this, then do this, then do this. And oftentimes, your financial life is not chronological. You need to consider all of those things, but you might need to spin a couple plates on your fingers all at the same time. Because I'd want you to get the match. I'd want you to work aggressively on paying that loan off, but I'd also want you to, make sure that you're considering and using that Roth IRA potentially.
Yeah, it is much simpler to think in terms of just do this, then do this, then do this. But this is why you want to work with a planner, make sure they're certified, and make sure they're a fiduciary. Because there's a difference, and you can't tell by looking, but there's a difference between someone who is under a suitability standard, which means if they can get you to buy it, they can sell it to you, versus someone who has to act in your best interest.
Oh my goodness, that tees up the next question, but I'm gonna delay that question till next week. It's so good. I want to make sure we've got enough time to address it, and that is this whole idea of, well, if I'm a financial professional, but if I can talk you into something, then that's fine. All right, we're skipping that one. We'll hit it next week. Judy, 69 from Granger. My daughter and her husband are looking to move, and I would like to help them avoid private mortgage insurance and get the house that she likes. I was thinking of gifting $30,000 to $40,000 to help. What do I need to be aware of?
Wow. Well, first of all, what a generous
Yeah, very
spirit,
generous.
right? Wanting to help family members get moved into a different house. You framed it as kind of a want here. What we don't know, the circumstances of the situation, is are you maybe helping them get overextended? Because, maybe you help solve part of the problem of the affordability of the house, the down payment portion. What's the mortgage going to look like for them? And I don't know, how much larger is this house? What kind of additional expenses are they kind of signing up for? And anytime I run into someone who can't afford one element of the home ownership, it makes me wonder, can they afford all of the elements of home ownership?
And that's a good point. Although I would say, Judy, if the gift does not have a detrimental effect on your own financial life and your own financial plan, it can be a pretty amazing gift because the payment, it's interesting, the payment on a $100,000 house versus the payment on a $200,000 house, it's not cash flow, it's not dramatically different if you have the down payment to support it. So a lot of times, when we moved from Lawrence Street to the nice subdivision, our house payment didn't go up dramatically because the amount that we were able to put down. We borrowed dramatically more money, but the payment didn't go up proportionally like you would think it would. It's a little bit of a Jedi mind trick.
So be aware that you're not enabling and putting your daughter into a situation where they're going to overextend themselves financially. Listen, more expensive houses have more expensive roofs that need to be replaced, have nicer expectations for the kitchen remodel.
Property
right?
tax.
Property taxes. But also, make sure it doesn't negatively impact your financial position. But then you also need to be aware of gift tax and gift rules. Based on how much you're gifting and the situation, I think you should be just fine there. But all right, that's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Josh Gregory, Kevin Corhorn, and myself, and all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week for the Wise Money Show with Corhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Corhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.